Welcome everybody to another What Sold video, something we do weekly here at Pish Posh Reselling, or at least we try to. This is actually going to cover 2 weeks because of the vacation that we just took. The sales I had that week were a little bit less than usual, and so I just decided to put those 2 weeks together, the week before and the week after. So we're starting off with September 9th, I believe it is, right through to the 22nd. And I'll share with you what we did as far as our strategy for handling our vacation and still trying to get some sales while we were away. First off, before we even start with this awesome Vemco plastic ruler, I want to thank Julie. I just got the notification that you sent me a coffee, which I appreciate very much. Julie used the link that's down in my description. It's usually there, I think, on most videos, just kind of like a tip jar kind of thing. But I do appreciate that, Julie, and I will be going to get that coffee later today. Anyway, so I mentioned Vemco in the video about thrifting in the dark on our thrifting trip, and we actually had 2 of these. So the one I shared in that video actually this one actually sold before that one that I talked about in that video. And this one was a little bit smaller. It was 12 inches. And we got them together at the same time, the 12 inch and the 18 inch. This one sold for $40. And like Mr. Pish Posh said, Vemco is a good brand to keep an eye out for drafting type items. And we had gone to a thrift store that it's not a new thrift store, but it was kind of new to us in the area. We just had kind of overlooked it for a long time and finally went to it. We didn't pick up a whole lot that day, but we did find these 2 rulers, and they were like in the crafting section instead of the hardware section. And so we, I think we paid... Oh, what did we pay? It was a little bit high. It could have been $5 a piece or something like that. But he was like, yep, get it, no problem. And so this one sold for $40, as you already saw. The other one sold for, oh, you'll see it later, I guess. It sold for $50, just kind of spoiler alert. It was a little bit bigger, so it sold for a little bit more. Next up is this sale on eBay, this pair of Clark's shoes. They sold for $31.49. As you can see, I have a 10% off here. So I was actually, instead of using a coupon to do my discount, I ran a sale event. So I don't usually do that because I had more success with coupons than with sales for some reason. But I kind of like the fact that it shows me this price right here. Just makes doing these videos a lot easier. So $31.49. I picked those up somewhere cheap. I don't remember exactly where. It might have been at a thrift store, a local thrift store on their half off shoe day. So probably paid about $5 for those, and they were like brand new and a larger size. Here's another one of my Pixar's cars. Wall hanging fabric panel. There's, you could use it for like a quilt if you're going to make that, or just frame it, hang it on the wall, that kind of thing. So I had gotten the bolt. Remember, okay, that word is coming to me quicker today, but I had a bolt where I had a bunch of these, and so I've just slowly been selling them off anywhere from, $10 to $15. So this one sold for $13.49. And then I sold this belt. It was a Western belt, and it sold for $30. I took an offer on that. There was no buckle on it. I got positive feedback on it, but they weren't super happy with the belt and the quality. It's just kind of a vintage Western belt, and probably one of those like hand tooled, like from a kit that you could make that was popular back in the 70s. Next up is this Jess and Jane tunic top. Now the material on this is kind of like the Chico's Travelers. It's that slinky, and I use that word in the title, that slinky fabric. I've sold this brand a couple of times. Just kind of one of those under the radar brands, and just kind of bread and butter, but it's called Jess and Jane. and it's that travel good, material, and it sold for $26.99. Next up was a vintage J. Jill dress. This was very Y2K. It was also, I think, kind of a similar material. It was silk and okay, so hopefully that won't happen again. Let's see. We were just talking about the fact that this was like a velvet. It had that kind of velvet burnout kind of feel to it that was so popular back in that time. So that one sold for $31.49. Next up on eBay. Oh, this was kind of fun. This was an antique. So this one actually sold for an offer for $60. I had two of these. I sold the other one, actually had damage, and I don't remember exactly what that one sold for. It sold for less, but I had bought them together. They're Villeroy and Bach. They have, what is it? It's marked. Hold on. Or it's information I got online. But here's the mark on the bottom. It's made in Germany, and you can take the information on the bottom and figure out the date code and everything. And so this was from 1906. And they did a series of kind of like souvenir mugs, right? Back in the day. This one was for Denver, Colorado, and they make a bunch of them. It's actually more common to find them for areas or cities in Germany. And so there was a few that were for cities in the United States. And so those are a little bit harder to find. So I had come across two of these at a Goodwill down in Missoula, I believe. And I bought both of them. The damaged one sold first. This one was in better shape, but took a little longer. And so it finally sold for $60. Next up was kind of fun as well. This 30s Cadillac Flying Goddess hood ornament. I think this came out of a friend's storage unit that Mr. Pish Posh was with him when he was bidding on this storage unit, and so we pulled this one out to sell, and it sold for $101.24. Sold a hat. ASU Sun Devils sold for $14. Then, okay, so I got these fairly recently, this baseball cap. There was 3 of them at Goodwill. So I think I paid $1.99 each. I don't think I had a coupon that day. I'm trying to remember. But anyway, I did pick them up because they were new with tags. And then also because it's a retired logo. The Chief Wahoo, I think, was retired fairly recently. And these got a lot of attention when I put them on, when we got them listed. And so this one sold for $26.99 just within a few days of getting them listed. All 3 have sold at this point. There might be another one in this video. I can't remember when it actually sold, but I think it did sell while we were on our vacation. You might remember these. It's a shaver replacement foil cutter thingy majiggy. This was on a 50-cent table at a yard sale, and I had picked up some Gillette. I told this story with Mr. Pish Posh on one of the videos. He joined me because we had 2 and 1 sold already. And I had picked up the Gillette replacement blade type things, and Mr. Pish Posh saw these and said, well, what about these? And I was like, well, it's wall stuff that you cut your hair with doesn't sell so good. But like this is different, and this is for shavers. It was just a little more, I guess, rare. Mr. Pish Posh said, well, they're only 50 cents. Let's just try them. And they actually ended up being worth more than the Gillette. And guess what has sold? The wall has sold, and I don't think the Gillette ones have. So shows what I know. And then this was something we picked up at Goodwill. We were together at Goodwill, and we saw there was a few different, like someone had gotten out of the business of, or cleaned out their closet. They were no longer working for the airlines. Now, I'm very careful picking up airline clothing or uniforms or things like that. You won't be able to list anything current because of ever since 9/11. So I felt safer picking up the America West stuff because that airline has been bought out. It's no longer running, I don't think, as an independent airline. It got absorbed into another airline. So I was okay with, we picked up a few pieces of America West airline clothing from the Goodwill that day. And then this one sold for $42. So I'm going to pause right here for a second, and then I'll explain to you how we handled our vacation listings, because this ends what sold that week before we went on our trip. So I'll explain to you what we did. Okay, this ends the eBay portion of what sold the week before. As we go into the other platforms, those will just be mixed together, what sold when, okay? But here, let me explain that real quick. Okay, so what we did is we put our eBay store on time away, and we chose the option where you can leave your store open to sales. I think you're allowed to do the time away for 2 weeks, like a 2-week section, if you're open to people buying your items while you're gone. And then if you turn off that ability for people to purchase from you, then you can do it longer, like 3 weeks or something like that. But anyway, so we decided to allow people to buy things while we were away. So eBay, I think it automatically extends your handling time, and it, should notify the buyers that there's going to be a delay and things like that. So we went ahead and did that, but then all our other shops we shut down because there's really not a way. I would have to probably message every single person and say, hey, I know you bought this, but I'm on vacation, and you're going to have to wait till next week for me to ship it. So it's just easier. We just shut all those down. Then at the end of the week, like Friday, we turned all those stores back on, and we turned the time away thing off on eBay. What was interesting is that on eBay, we did have some sales trickle through throughout that week. Not a ton. Mr. Pish Posh did bring some photos, and he brought some like draft information and things like that. And so he tried to add some new listings every night, trying to kind of keep the store a little bit alive. And one of the items actually did sell, I think, when he listed it. Then I started off by messaging people, and then I kind of gave that up. It didn't seem like it was necessary. And what was interesting is that as soon as we turned time away off, eBay went dead. And so we got a couple sales from some of the other venues that were opened back up again, but then eBay just went quiet. And so we ended up starting a sale or a coupon, and that seemed to help because then Sunday night, we got kind of a flurry of sales again on eBay. So that's what we ended up doing. I've taken other vacations where we just shut everything down so that you can have a complete vacation and, not have to think about reselling. But for this particular one, that's what we ended up doing. Okay, so as I explained in that thrifting in the dark, thrifting with a flashlight video, this was the other Vemco plastic ruler that sold pretty much like our first day of our vacation, and while we were finding another Vemco product at the same time at a thrift store in the middle of Montana. We also sold this Zaya hooded jacket. I don't pick up a lot of Zaya, but I like the look of this one with the retro kind of rainbow stripes on there. That one did sell for $24.99. And we have it as is. I think there's supposed to be a drawstring down around the waist, and that was not there. I started off at the beginning messaging buyers to make sure they knew about the vacation listing and that there would be a delay. And this was the only one who answered back. And they said, hey, no problem. So anyway, it's all been delivered since then, so it's good. Then we've got this hat. Okay, I shared this hat. I had two of them. that I picked up at our little clearance bin store, and I shared it from like the back of the car, I think. But I don't know what Flamco is, and I don't know, it turns out it's a roofing company, and it really turns out that it's not Flamco. That's the important part on this. It's the type of camouflage. So there's actually some camouflage patterns. They're not all the same. This one is known as a feather flage, and it's a little bit different, and there's people who look for certain types of camouflage in pieces of clothing, and so it wouldn't matter to them whether this is a roofing company or whatever. They just like the print of camouflage that's on it. So these actually sold pretty quickly. This one did sell for $26.99, and Mr. Pish Posh listed this while we were on our trip, and it sold right away. Then we've got these tools. These were Mr. Pish Posh's from his personal, sorry, I'm just making a note that these were personal and not buying for profit. But he had cleaned out one day, he was cleaning some stuff out of one of his toolboxes and realized he doesn't ever use these. And so he listed them and sold them for $50. I'm sure we thrifted them originally or picked them up at a yard sale, or they were a hand-me-down or something like that. But anyway, here's a Chico's piece that sold pretty well. Again, full price, $38.99. And it was Zenergy as a line of Chico's. It also helped. It was one of the larger Chico's sizes in a size 3. I had 2 of these Zenergy vests, and I meant to list them together so the listing process would be easy. But for some reason I had listed one, sold it, and then I probably had to start all over from scratch on the second one because for some reason they didn't get listed together. They weren't together in storage, so that's part of the problem. Here's the other of the Chief Wahoo hat for the Cleveland Indians, and that one sold for $26.99. I just noticed, well, oh no, that was for the one above it. Never mind. Okay, so then we sold this, and they did ask us to ship it immediately. It was towards the end of the week, and I was like, sorry, we're on vacation, but I guess it was okay. And this cracked me up. Okay, so this is a sprinkler hose attachment, and some of these vintage ones can actually be worth pretty good money. There are people who collect them, and I don't know if it's officially called owl eyes, but that's what Mr. Pish Posh used in it. It does look like an owl's face. But as I read the title to myself, I was like, vintage owl eyes Thompson. And it just reminded me of like an old time gangster nickname, Owl Eyes Thompson. Anyway, okay. I'm tired, but that sold for $25, and I picked that up for $1 at an estate sale. This was a Land's End Ultra Down sweater. It's like there's a down vest part, and then it's just kind of like a fleece or sweatshirt sleeves, and that sold for $35. This hat sold for $16.99, and I think this was as we had the store back open again and I started running a sale. The next few sales are from that, just kind of like that one day. A bunch of sales came in. I did get that at the Bins Clearance Center. I remember picking that up. And this also sold, this Cinch soft shell jacket sold for $55 on an offer. Cinch is a Western brand. Find it pretty often out here in Montana. We sold 4 of these Arabia, Finland anemone bowls for $49.99. It's showing the coupon code that's currently active, so I don't know what's going on, but I think I did have a coupon going, so maybe that is showing the price. That could be. That would be nice. I never know. eBay's always changing things. So, okay, it did sell for $45. We have another set of 4 available as well. Then I sold this I got this at Goodwill one day. It's kind of funny. It caught my attention because the label reads, "Are you dead or are you sleeping?" And it's a pillowcase So it turns out it's swag from a concert, a Modest Mouse concert. And there was a bunch of, like, in comps, it was kind of hard to find anything specific. But the I saw some comps of where people were selling the pillowcase and some other swag from the concert as well. And so I just kind of made up a price, $39.99, and it sold for $39.99. I'm assuming, yeah, see, I'm pretty sure the sale was running for this, the coupon was running, so it should be 10% off of that as well. I never know what eBay is doing, showing prices or not. Then check this out. We sold floss for $45. I learned about, there's quite a few resellers that kind of focus on discontinued health and beauty. And it's very fascinating to me. And so I do follow a few on Instagram, such as Thrifted Travel. She's got a lot of good information about perfumes and and things that are discontinued. And so I knew she's talked about floss in the past, and I was just like, oh. So I keep my eyes open, and sure enough, one day I saw this at Goodwill for like $1 or $2, and I researched it in the store, and I was like, oh, yes, we're going to buy this floss. And so it did. It sold for $45. People love their floss. And then the last sale of that Sunday was this Isaac Mizrahi cardigan. It was kind of new with not really tags, but the little button that comes with your replacement button that comes with sweaters, and that sold for $19.99. I got that at Goodwill on half off day of the women's clothing. So over on Posh has been kind of unimpressive lately. This sold before our trip, but it was a Nintendo GameCube controller, sold for $50. I just asked Mr. Pishposh what the story was with this. He said he picked it up probably like a year ago at a thrift store. And in his words, he said it was before the thrift store went crazy with their pricing. So I think he said he paid about $5. He found a bunch of kind of gaming stuff that day. And he felt like he was paying a high price at that point. I think he paid like $25 for a bunch of different things. And he said it sat in the garage for a long time. He finally got around to cleaning them up and testing them. And he got them listed. And so that was a nice little, finally, return on investment for that controller. Now, the same thrift store, the prices would be way higher at this point. So he hasn't picked up anything kind of game related from there in a long time. Now these sandals I got at a yard sale. This cracked me up. It was the yard sale, community yard sale. Mr. Pishposh had brought some of our stuff to a friend's house. And so I went over for a little while, and we walked the community and just kind of checked out some of the little sales. And I didn't buy a whole lot, but I went into this one sale and they were done. It was hot that day. It was kind of early in the day, and they were like, we're done. Everything in here is half off, right? Or I don't know. It could have been like everything was a quarter. It was like crazy. It was super cheap. But all I know is I got these sandals for a quarter. So it could have been that it was half off, and she was only asking 50 cents to begin with. So anyway, it's the first time I've gotten something like this substantial for a quarter in a long time. Anyway, Parativa sandals, and they sold for $34 on Posh. Then I love this blazer. It was so 80s, but so Western rodeo queen kind of thing. It was the single button with the cinch sleeves, but then the back was just this lace panel in the back. And see, it was kind of like see-through in the back. So definitely took the right kind of look and outfit. And Top 10 made in the USA. I think Top 10 is like was a Western brand. I don't know if it's still in business or anything like that. Very funny. And then another shirt sold on Posh that had an interesting back. I picked this up at a thrift store locally. I'm trying to get to the picture of the back. It was kind of one of those, again, velvet burnout backs to it. It was very interesting, you know. So the front was like a crushed velvet and the back was this burnout pattern. So I picked it up because it was interesting. Took a while to sell though. Then I think our last sale on Posh, after we opened back up again, so this might have been the only sale I think for that week on Poshmark because we were closed. The shop was closed completely. This was $20. This Pittsburgh Steelers pullover. I have no idea where it came from. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. I had two sales. These are Etienne Anier open toe heels. They are super cute. They are not leather, so I think they're the newer Anier line. Like they weren't vintage or anything like that. And so the newer, I'm just gonna say EA because I can't keep saying that because I know I'm saying it not right. The newer EA does not sell for as high, but some of the vintage stuff can do pretty well. But these were like never worn. They were in really good condition. They got a ton of attention on Depop, which was interesting. I had used some of to me, they're very academia. I don't know. They're very classic looking shoes and you know, I don't know. I can't even remember what I used in there. But I kept getting offers for like $18 all over the place. And I kept saying, yes, 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 yes. And I think I had them listed at $24. And nobody followed through on the payment on Depop. So when they finally sold on Poshmark, I was like, please, just take them. Like, I'm tired of accepting offers on these things and nobody buying them. Okay, speaking of Depop, we actually had a good week the week before our vacation. This was a sweater that sold for a little bit less. I think it sold for $25. Depop is another one of those that is showing the asking price in the solds. So let me just try to find some of the more accurate pricing that I can share with you. Okay, so that one was $25. That one I remember. It was just kind of a fun 90s sweater with a girl walking a dog. And so that one I had to end and relist to get some attention and some eyes back on it again. So it was listed for a bit and took a while. This one sold really quickly. This Western belt, I took an offer for $18. It's Nakona. It's still available in stores, so I couldn't go super high on that one, but it was in really good condition. Another one of our vintage Montana State University Bobcat jackets sold. We took an offer for $65 on that one. Sold a hat for, let's see, I think it was $14 as we took a $14 offer. Again, just one of our kind of bins finds that we get. Another bins find that we had this one sitting around for a little while. This is a Swedish Army military winter hat, I think. And that sold, we had two of these. I think this one sold for $20. See, it's really hard to find my actual selling price on these. So, I have to get my receipt. Then I can see it. No, it sold for $21.30. Then, another kind of fun. You know, if you told me years and years ago that I would be picking these up. I mean, I did kind of sell stuff like this. Like, it's popular with teachers, like kindergarten teachers and things like that. But it's, you know, the younger crowd is buying up this fun vintage, kind of cheesy clothing, if I do say so, but people love them. Super cute. Sold for, I want to say $22. Now, I do want to say, I noticed that this one was boosted. It sold for $18.70. So, I had a few items on here that I played around with boosting, which is kind of like their promotion. So an item that's boosted, they take 8% if you pay for, it's like you're paying for the boosting. So it kind of cancels out the fact that you don't have any selling fees. So I know some Depop, once they took away selling fees, they just basically boosted their whole store. So they were still dealing with having selling fees, but it was for promoting their items instead of, so 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I only have a handful of things boosted. I couldn't even remember why or which ones I picked, but every once in a while I see one that's sold because of that. These sold, I believe it was $118 for these Fry work boots. If you know, let's see, they were vintage, I believe, but so I'm just showing you the Fry logo. It's usually embossed on the side of the boot, and I think they were just kind of, I don't know. I mean, they look really good. I think they were just dirty, and they were at our clearance thrift store, right? So I hardly paid anything for them. I was so excited to see the Fry logo. And Mr. Pish Posh, of course, did all the work cleaning them up, but we sold them for $118 on there. These, I think, sold for $25. It wasn't a whole lot. I was okay with taking an offer. They're a modern shoe made to look like the Y2K style, but that chunky look is still popular. Here's another random boosted one. These are sunglasses by Juicy Couture, and then Mr. Pish Posh threw in a case that fit them, but it's an Oakley case, so I think we were going to separate that at some point, but it didn't matter. And then those, we took a pretty good offer on that one, I do believe, because, yeah, $25.40 is what we sold those for. This Hollister shirt, we're actually just shipped it recently because the buyer was on vacation, and so we held on to it a little bit before we shipped it, and that sold for $18. It was one of those $1 at the thrift store kind of t-shirts. And a vintage belt. This sold for $18 as well, I believe. I had this listed a while, and I just realized, no, it only sold for $14. But I just realized the other day that I only had it on Posh and eBay, and I didn't have it on Depop. And we actually do pretty well with vintage belts on Depop. So once I moved it over there, it sold pretty quickly. Ruby Lane, super sad on Ruby Lane, but it's totally my fault. I have not been doing anything with Ruby Lane, which is sad because we have a listing fee, a shop fee for the month. And so it's totally my bad to not be keeping up with adding more things to Ruby Lane, because it's like any of the other platforms. You have to feed the beast. You've got to keep it happy with adding new and fresh things, and then it usually pays off. So I've got to get my act together. So October is going to be a really busy month, I can tell that, because I have other plans too. And then these cat's eye glasses sold for $18. We picked them up, I think, on one of our little thrifting trips. Paid $1 or so and sold those for $18. Over on Etsy, same thing, Mr. Pish Posh's shop. He hasn't been giving it a whole lot of attention, but I guess we're starting with the sewing pattern shop instead. I think I just deleted one, but if you saw it, it was a sale. If I hit this little tab just wrong and I hit the X, then it goes away. But here's another Vogue that sold for $15. Another Vogue that sold for $10. This was a jacket. So when I pick my pricing, a lot has to do with how many are available on Etsy at the time. So I went with $10. I was not the cheapest, so I'm happy it sold even though others were available. The Cinderella costume pattern sold for $25. This Vogue sold for $12, this super cute little dress. And then this Vogue sold for $30. It was a Bill Blass vintage, I'm pretty sure 1990s pattern. So that was a nice price. And then the last, I think, pattern that sold was this DKNY for $12. That was a more modern 2000s pattern. Now I think nope, one more Vogue. Sorry. This Vogue sold for $14. This one was a little bit older with this nice dress. So this was the one sale we had on Etsy. I knew I'd get to it eventually. I have a little bit of footage. I'll try to pop it up right here of finding it at Goodwill recently. It's just such a fun little piece. And because I check the office supplies section of Goodwill, especially after doing the office supply video, I spotted this, and I knew this, I think, from that research of office supplies and pencil sharpeners, that this was kind of one of those collector items. Collectible, people buy it for its look, not so much its function, right? And so it was a really nice color, and we sold that for $50 on Etsy. Then over on Mercari, I've got this scent library. So again, I sell a lot of the pre-owned perfumes over on Mercari, and we took an offer for $40. Free shipping was something Mr. Pishposh at first added to some of our listings because they took away the fees. Remember, Mercari was the first site to take away the seller fees, and so we tried to just take away shipping in order to kind of make up for the fee maybe that the buyer was selling. I don't think we do that anymore, but this was still kind of listed that way. This, I think I paid $5 or so it was our Honey Hole little ongoing estate sale that has pretty much, I mean, it's still going, but I don't know that new stuff is being added so regularly right now, but I haven't been back to check lately. But those sold for $40. Those were kind of cool. Then also took a lower offer on this pair of shoes. I had it higher, but we realized even though they were new, they didn't really have any insoles or anything like that. So we just let those go. Then this Travis Matthew sold for $19. It was like super clean, and we sold it. Let's see, I picked it up at Goodwill one day, possibly the same day as those. No, I think it was a different day. I picked it up because I had a coupon. I had seen it the time before, but I waited. I had a coupon, so it took a little bit off the $1.99 price because I'm so used to paying hardly anything for hats. So it's hard to pay $2 for a hat. Even though after our trip, a lot of thrift stores are selling their hats for $6 and more. So I feel you, people. When you're looking at hats at regular thrift stores, sometimes I know we're fortunate with our hat prices, but it's mostly because of our location that we even got into them at all. You know, because of that supply, that, you know, source that we have. If we didn't have that source, we wouldn't sell as many hats. And then we just picked these up one day at the thrift store. Mr. Pishposh Google lensed and confirmed they were KitchenAid. And we just lotted them all together and sold them for $20. Okay, so that was it. Those were the 2 weeks, the week before our trip and the week of our trip. So we did have some sales, just, you know, a trickle of sales while we were gone is better than nothing. And we will see you coming up next week. It's October already. I can't believe it. We are, let's see. What do I have coming? It would help if I could speak. I would say my challenge for listing sewing patterns, we're going to kick that off in October. So I've got a video about that coming up. And kind of just more of the usual, the Flatware Fridays, and some more of what we found on our trip. So anyway, just wanted to give you a heads up. Let me know how your sales have been going in the comments down below. And thank you again so much, everybody, for watching. We do appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.